Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday. It is June 2nd, 2024. Of course, this is Shooter, Scott Henderson. Of course, at the end of our presentation, please do review our disclosure. Okay, jumping right in, let's just do a recap of last week. Still sporadic, to be honest with you. I'm still not back here. My head's not in the right place, with my father passing and all. So hopefully we get a little clearer head going into the next couple of weeks. But we also have FOMC in front of us on the 12th. So, of course, we're hesitant, especially with how lofty the indices are and how light the volume has been. So we've been a little timid. Our performance last week, was minimal, about 402 a contract. My highest interest going into this week is CRM. Now, let me just give you a visual on this. It had nice volume. I almost took it Friday, but I decided to wait and see how we opened Monday because we still have some room. Nice push off the bottom, but we really didn't get any kind of back test, sort of just the pop. Once we got that sell off, we got no back test. So you know me on back tests. I like back tests. So, but 50% back is 250.101. So I like a blend here. The reason is because I want to start shallow. So I'm going to start with June. Okay, so less than 2 weeks out, right at 2 weeks out, 237 calls as soon as I do put something on. And then I'll add both to that June and July 240s. And forgive me, I'll have to update that in noticing it says 40 instead of 240. And then ultimately, when we get above that 382, that last little push, I'll add some July 250s with the intent of maybe holding on to those July 250s for a little while. Because I do think this just starts another leg right back up. Quite often we fill those gaps. That gives us about 265. So we have some good upside. And considering the low volume environment, this is a good name for everybody to chase. So I see the FOMO behind this. And the response was sort of that came after the initial flush in pre-market. All right, then I like AMD. The only thing I don't like is this flat, but it got a decent bid here off of the lows, off that 23.650. So our target was 158.27 at one point. So that's an important number. That's sort of my stop now. When we get below that, anything above 170, I get real interested, and I'll start adding those 175s. June 28th, instead of doing the monthlies. The only reason I didn't want to pay for the monthlies, at least the way this chart looked, I want to stay shallow. Where I could see it in that short period of time, give myself a little extra time, extra 10 days, whatever it was. And then we'll plan to add August 185 calls, which is the bolt of where the flow is going. So everybody's pushing out to the August calls. Of course, there's a little more premium on those, but that's my take on AMD. Now, MRVL is, I view it like CRM, but it didn't get the pump yet. So it got the flush. We got the little bit of a back test, but we really got I shouldn't say no. We got about a third of the flow in MRVL that we got in CRM, but not as many strikes. It had one strike, which I think was a total of 3 different buyers. So somebody picked up on it, and the chart looks good, considering where we are in this flat. It really does. We've not had a drawdown. So to me, it's oversold. To me, this was oversold. But I also want to see if we get another continuation. I would suspect that we start fading Monday into the open if we're going to continue to fade lower. If we start getting a bid, then they're going to chase this as well. And that's sort of my thought. All right. Now, I'm still looking, I didn't like the premium last week on NVDA, so, we didn't jump on board that as far as the puts are concerned. But I think we get down to this 1,060, and be very candid, I may have missed it Friday because we came right down to the low on that wick and it was done. And, there was no more selling volume that came in. And the FOMO is chasing the calls. So they're chasing the $1,200 calls and some $1,350 calls from what I can see. And there are probably a couple other strikes in there that I'm not recognizing, but that caught my radar looking at so many charts. So we get down about that 1,060. I want to take a shot at the weekly 950 puts for an expiration. I'd like to get up to 350 or 400 a contract, but I don't know if it'll be that deep this time because the premiums are not as bent as they were, going into earnings. So, that was sort of a one-off kind of thing, getting 6 something a contract. But I still like the idea because I think it's a safe bet, put some premium on the table and it expires the end of the week. Or we could look at June 900 puts. I want to give it a little more room as far as the monthlies are concerned, just because if we continue a leg lower, not saying that's the case here yet. This just looks like it's a back test. Didn't quite fill the gap. I'd rather that gap get filled, but I'm also going to be watching to see if it overshoots because could very well back test this second gap. We could get down there and then want to go. So just got to watch it, stock it a little bit. Now looking at Bitcoin, right now the count suggests we're going to go down to about 64,680. However, I'm going to flip back and forth between time frames here and try and give you a good thought pattern here. We're squeezing, but when we take the slope of that push, we probably are going to put in just a little higher high around 75 and then maybe get some rejection. That's what it looks like to me, right? However, we've also extended quite long here on this flag versus our history. Let me come back and sort of express that. So this is our flag that we were looking at on the daily. And here is our first breakout towards all-time highs. Then we got a rejection, more than 50% back, almost dead to the 61.8. Then we bounced and put our second drive in here. So we have a confirmed high, a divergent high. Very consistent with my thesis or my work. However, this is a left shoulder also, right? And with this breakdown, it is also a head. However, it's a shallow head. I will say that. So, however, looking at RSI, we confirmed on this leg, and we got another divergent lower low in price. So that's also very consistent. So this is really cut and dry, steak and potatoes kind of thing. However, we've got this right shoulder sitting over here. So I'm very concerned about that because that would mean we're going to get this or this. Because realize we're confirming here, which means it's overly euphoric. It's not consistent with patterns on that leg. It's a mound. And the problem with mounds is they like to back test, so we could get an easy back test down to about 45K, right around where this breakout was. And it's done nothing wrong. It's not as consistent as this leg is. So we're definitely running into some resistance here. But let me go back to the daily for a second and spend a second here. Okay. So our slope and our Bollinger Bands are squeezing. But this looks to me like it's going to end shortly. So I think we're going to put in that higher high. Now my target on wave 5 is still 84,161. That has not changed. But we get below this lower part of this flag, which is 63,220, way the heck out over here. And actually, if I throw up an alert on there, it'll give me 60,000 or 58,609. I mean, if we flushed right now. And obviously, you'll have to do that individually when you are looking at your trend support lines. And just so you can put those on your chart, I'm going with this is an important marker. So I'm going with the December 6th high, right? And then I'm using the February 19th, 50,456 is our low as my marker. So this was our trend resistance through this push, this last leg before we broke out. So this whole pattern is the result of this breakout. So we do not want to get below that. We get below that in any way, shape, or form. It opens up that right shoulder to the downside, opens up quite a big move to the downside. So I wanted to share that with you and sort of give you a visual of my breakdown so you guys could put that into your context. I'll print a copy of this daily chart and I'll post it in chat for you. That's what I've got, folks. Great trading. Until next time.